because for whatever reason, people will actually listen to a guy who's pretending to be a talk radio host. You're listening to MultimediaJay Radio.
What's up, everybody? Happy Black Friday. I've got a busy day ahead of me, but I'm at least going to put in a proper sophomore effort to the radio series before I head out to take care of the hustle and bustle. I am not going to be doing any Black Friday Christmas shopping, although as much as I bragged about how I wasn't going to get involved with the mess that's going on in the retail stores today, I actually want to go buy an air filter for a filter fan. So I'm going to try and see if there's not as much of a rush at the hardware store instead of going to like a Walmart or a Target or something. But that should be an interesting experience. Maybe I'll bring the camera for that. But anyways, I decided before I got underway with all the stuff I have to do today that I would put in a proper sophomore effort for this audio commentary series after deleting the last two of these segments that I recorded because they were way too vloggy. And this really kind of lends to what I want to talk about in this revisitation, so to speak, of the Where Have All the Vlogboys Gone thing that I did earlier when I just ranted about how fake YouTube has become and how the U of YouTube's been gone for forever. And yeah, I know everybody and their mother's uncle who has been around a while on here has been going nuts about this kind of stuff. But ultimately, yeah, YouTube has now been around long enough that you can talk about the so-called good old days. But I don't think so much that it's an issue as much as it is mandatory change in order for this website to stay around. I mean, yeah, sure, people were talking about how video bloggers were making YouTube into what it is back in the mid-2000s, but whenever people were talking about YouTube and it wasn't about the video bloggers and the revolutionary stuff that was going on, there was concerns that the site would not have any way whatsoever to pay its bills. As much as people complain about the Google acquisition of YouTube, prior to the Google acquisition, what people were saying in the news about YouTube was, how on earth is this website still going to be around in 2 or 3 years? They're offering free video hosting, which is expensive and very hardware intensive on the internet. And there have been sites previously that have gone under trying to allow for cheap or free video hosting. YouTube took advantage of some developments in macromedia flash technology in the early 2000s that allowed for very efficient conversion of video into essentially vector graphic flash cartoons. And as this feature was actually something I played with in college when I did some flash programming, it was a new feature that Macromedia, of course, had been bought out. Since then, Macromedia was very, very excited about because they saw the potential that videos that weren't so huge would have on the internet and stuff like that, and all kinds of other things as well. Even offline projects wouldn't take up as much space, wouldn't require such a huge computer in order to run, and wouldn't be as much of a system slammer as some video codecs had been before then. So Flash video was an awesome revolutionary idea, even if it hadn't gone onto the internet and done what it had done with what's going on with YouTube, or what has gone on with YouTube. It still would have been a revolutionary new feature for this kind of stuff. Now, as far as YouTube's changes are concerned, I think some of them are legit because there are some sites that did grow stagnant and went out of business as a result of growing stagnant and having issues because of that. But some of the other stuff, I think, some of the other ideas that YouTube has, I think just need to be tweaked a bit. For example, with the copyright stuff that I mentioned earlier, far too much of it is automated. They need to get more people involved that are actually making judgment calls instead of computer programs doing mathematics to determine whether someone's potentially infringing the rights of someone else. And there's more to it than that. For one thing, it would be nice if the burden of proof was on the accuser and not the accused in order to make their case. Right now, basically, you get flagged and all kinds of stuff happens to you if the YouTube robots suspect that you might be doing something wrong. Regardless of whether you're doing something wrong or not, now the cannon is pointed at you just for being suspected. This would never, ever have flown in any kind of legal setting unless you're talking like the Salem witch hunt or something like that. Matter of fact, that's exactly what this is. If you read satire novels like The Crucible, which was satirizing some of the anti-communist stuff in the 50s by making a story about the Salem witch hunts, but if you look at what happens in stuff like Arthur Miller's The Crucible, people get accused of witchcraft, and then the fight is for them to prove their innocence, not for the accuser to prove that they're guilty. So it's really just justice turned on its head here, and this is fast becoming... Here's the thing, if YouTube is a standard setter, then that means YouTube sets the standard that you're guilty until proven innocent, and shoot first and ask questions later is how these websites are going to operate. That needs to go away. That is my top legitimate complaint about sites like this, is that they're turning justice completely on its head, and in the name of protecting themselves, they're not performing their due diligence to keep the innovation and creativity and people's overall desire to use the site in the first place from being chilled and eventually frozen. And of course, we all know what happens when that desire to interact on here gets chilled or frozen. YouTube's revenue starts dropping and the site eventually goes under, because it's ultimately people's interest that has kept this site going. There have been more innovative sites that have done more than YouTube at times in this site's history, but they didn't have enough people using the site, and they didn't stick around. Now, within that discussion on YouTube changes and things like that, there is the issue of video blogging. Now, this topic, Where Have All the Vlogboys Gone, is a parody of that song, Where Have All the Cowboys Gone, but just talking about video blogging instead. Video blogging, as so those of you who have been following this channel for years know, has been a very controversial thing for me, because I've never wanted to be a vlogger. Now, when I first got involved with YouTube back in 2006, vlogging was hot, it was everywhere, it was hip, and as Renetto's old song used to go, 2-bit, everybody's doing it. I didn't want to be just another everybody, especially with the AV background that I had, so I deliberately tried to do something other than video blog. And now, looking at what vlogging is nowadays, a secondary activity that sometimes requires, are you ready for this, disclaimers on the video or even in the title, hey, this is a vlog, don't get mad at me because it's a vlog. I mean, you even got Paul from Newegg TV, the guy over there doing all the computer and tech videos. He does his studio tour, walks around with the camera and talks, and he actually has to apologize at the end of the video because this is all vloggy and stuff. When did vlog become a swear word? Seriously. Now, I don't claim to be any kind of Nostradamus or anything like that. I wasn't trying to be some kind of YouTube prophet when I deliberately blew off the whole vlog thing. I did try doing a couple of vlog series, but I've never been able to stick with video blogging, ever. I've tried, I've got entire years, enough to make like a DVD season set out of video blogs that I did in 2007, 2008, 2009, but I've never been able to stick with it. I've always kept coming back to commentary, tech videos, gaming videos, or something like that. I've just never been able to be the kind of person who video blogs, and I don't claim to be some kind of YouTube Nostradamus who saw the problems that vloggers have nowadays from way back in the mid-2000s. I didn't see that coming. I just never was that interested in the whole video blog thing in the first place. Now, when I first started, of course, we had 2-bit, everybody's doing it, that kind of stuff, and it really was kind of oversaturated. Everybody and their mother's uncle was either grabbing a webcam or the video feature on a digital camera, which was viable back then, by the way. 240p uploads, 100 megabyte limit. That didn't exactly allow for fancy cameras to really show up all that well. I mean, even Venetian Princess had some very tacky looking videos back then, even though she was using better equipment than most of the video bloggers out there. The compression basically killed the quality no matter what equipment you were using, so there was no point in using fancy equipment. That's obviously not the case nowadays, but back then, with a 100 megabyte upload limit, yeah, no, everyone was cell phone quality back then. So I actually started with using the video feature on my then Kodak digital camera, the 5-megapixel digital camera that I started with. And so, yeah, it was pretty tacky, and it didn't have white balance, and if I tried doing stuff up against a white wall, that white balance would get thrown off, and my videos would constantly flip back and forth between being white and turning yellow, so I'd go between white and yellow in mid-take because of the automatic white balancing on that camera. It was just so horrendously primitive. Then I went to the Fuji F50 FD, and eventually the digital camcorders became more worth it and didn't use DV tapes anymore, so I eventually made the switch over to digital camcorders for video, and nowadays my Fuji F50 is largely a still image. Well, it takes pretty good still pictures. It's 12 megapixel, so it gets quite a lot of nice detail in there. I haven't found I don't take a lot of still pictures, so I haven't really found any real reason to get rid of it, so it just keeps chugging along, and I'm just gonna ride this train until it crashes, so to speak. I want to see how long that camera can go. I've had it since like 2007, 2008, something like that. I know I keep saying 2007, but I think that's when it first came out, and I didn't pick it up until it was about a year or so old in terms of model year and stuff like that and when it came out, but that's another discussion entirely. Video blogging was never interesting to me for many reasons. Not the least of which is that it was a waste of bandwidth and a waste of time compared to text blogging, which is still more than viable. Today, on my blog at multimediajay.wordpress.com, I have a lot of quick response type things in YouTube video commentary where I respond to people's YouTube videos, or I respond to stuff in the news. For example, Brian Griffin getting killed off on Family Guy. I've been following that since the episode aired last weekend, I should say. And yeah, I've been following that, chiming in on it. There have been other things too that I would never even dream of making a video about because it would be completely redundant. And instead of just typing up a quick response, embedding some YouTube videos or something like that, I would have to go to all the trouble to make the video, say everything right, this, that, and the other, and the response time would be far slower than with a text blog. Likewise, with blogging in general, there's, for the more personal stuff, Facebook has evolved into a more than viable way of sharing what's going on in your life and stuff like that, and things along those lines. And oh, and now, by the way, Facebook now has a video feature, not unlike YouTube, so extremely personal stuff where I'm like, hey, here's how life is, or saying hello to the relatives on holidays like Thanksgiving yesterday and stuff like that. I actually been uploading some videos to Facebook that are of a very personal nature, and folks who don't know me in real life wouldn't find interesting. So, yeah, so things have changed a lot in the social media department in terms of what you can do where and what you should do where. And YouTube really, the whole like open up to the world and tell everybody about your life it's not really, I mean, you'll always have the nosy people out there that are into things like soap operas and have to watch their stories, so to speak. There's all those nosy people out there who want to know everything about everybody that might actually find a vlog series interesting, but yeah, other people not so much. So yeah, it's kind of a waste of time and a waste of bandwidth, especially compared to something like audio. I mean, I'm talking about with these kinds of audio segments, what I do is I use the same MP4 codec that I used in 06 with for 240p and a really tiny file that uploads in like an hour tops, even over dinosaur subscriber line, like what passes for broadband in my neck of the woods if you don't go with that horrendous cable company that fired me after 3 months. Bringing up bad memories now, but yes, so anyways, if I lived in a city or something like that, if I lived in Asia or something where broadband is cheap, you have fiber optic broadband that's cheap and affordable and stuff like that. If I lived in that kind of place, maybe I'd play around with some more stuff, but not out here in the woods. I'd have to move actually closer to civilization in order for that to actually work. So video blogs to me have always been kind of a waste of bandwidth because text blogging has not gone away. I think the big reason why video blogging was what it was on YouTube was largely because YouTube was new back then and everybody wanted to jump on the YouTube bandwagon, or as people like to say back then, they finally caught the YouTube bug. And so what happened was you had people getting involved in this new website, video entertainment, stuff like that, something that could actually compete with the horrendously vacuous content-wise reality shows that were flooding the airwaves, stuff like that, and people's overall dissatisfaction with overpriced pay TV services. I mean, so here we are, a real alternative form of entertainment, even if it was very basic. Everybody and their mother's uncle was jumping on board and vlogging their brains out, or whatever not superlative, but whatever emphasizing type way you want to, vlogging your, if you finish the sentence, that kind of thing. And so between the, so that's what I think happened. The hype and the hysteria kind of fed off of itself, because we just seen flash memory become more affordable. We had just seen digital cameras. Everybody who bought a digital camera to stop using film cameras, you know, the kind of stuff that drove Eastman Kodak to the brink of bankruptcy and eventually out of business when they couldn't adapt to the new digital photography world. But when these digital cameras started doing video, and everybody who had their digital camera now suddenly could feel like a movie star with their crappy looking videos from their digital cameras. And now, of course, smartphones can have the same effect, but can do the same thing anyways. But people, so I think really it was just all the cards lining up, all the ducks being in a row. That's why YouTube vlogging was what it was. It was an easy way to join the then new and exciting online video craze. And then there was the social elements of it when television had been bland for years and we kept seeing the same reality shows recycled over and over again. People's appetite for reality television actually being real and not being fake. I mean, even Spike TV, they had that thing called the Joe Schmo Show, where they basically made fun of all the reality shows by having a reality show that wasn't real. So I think that was pretty awesome, actually. If there's ever a DVD series for it, I want to pick that up, because just the whole social commentary and satire thing makes it a must-have for me if they ever do a DVD release of that. But yeah, the Joe Schmo Show. So the world had already, people who consume video entertainment. I don't like using the term consume. I prefer watch, but that's the way people talk about this kind of stuff. They talk about consumption when it comes to entertainment, like people are stuffing their face full of food. Is that why America is so fat? I don't know. But when it comes to the so-called consumption of video entertainment, people had been absolutely sick of reality shows being blatantly fake and then eventually satirized with fake reality shows like Joe Schmo. People are just sick of that. And then eventually here come people actually talking about their lives, filming their lives, and things like that. It was an answer to a very big problem in the world of entertainment back then. And so, in a way, it kind of overfixed the problem, because next thing you know, you got everybody and their mother's uncle who has a digital camera or a webcam or can otherwise create crappy-looking videos just talking about, hey, here's my life, hey, here's how my life is going. And then eventually the cheating started. The YouTube cheaters, people going on about, hey, people crying for folks to subscribe every single video and stuff like that. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to give me thumbs up. Don't forget to give me 5 stars. As if people didn't already know that from the stuff that's right in front of their face on the video player's screen. Yeah, that's when all that started. Then YouTube saw the commercial thing. The commercial potential, started pursuing that in order to pay their bills better. They have it today. And now, yay, we have an online video site with an SOP guide with best practices and other corporate sounding stuff that I would rather not mess with, because I deal with enough of that at work. This is supposed to be fun, and and it's not just YouTube that's doing this. There are fanboys and trolls that are actually going into the comments sections and starting flame wars, bothering people to follow the YouTube SOPs because their channel isn't big enough. You know, as if the idea of doing this stuff for fun is now a completely, and I mean completely, foreign concept. Yeah, not so much with guys like me. So between the overall redundancy versus text blogging and other alternative ways to do entertaining stuff on the internet, between all of that and as my own audiovisual background, where I felt like these people just turning on the camera and talking were basically they're just taking the easy route to success, so to speak. You know, all these people that were vlogging and stuff like that, it never appealed to me very much. And so I never was able to stick with it. However, I did have some problems, as you've seen with the end of the radio style series and some other stuff like that, where things got too vloggy and too personal in supposed theme-based series on here. So what I'm going to do in response to that, I am eventually going to have a blog series that's mixed format between video and audio segments. But anything that's in that series is going to be way more vloggy in nature, and it's a vloggy type stuff I expect to be the minority in terms of the content in other series. Even what I did yesterday for Thanksgiving, the main point of that video was to play around with the camera and talk about Thanksgiving. So I know that running time wise, I spent less time testing the camera than talking about stuff, but that's going to be, I expect that to eventually be the minority. And, you know, I might make a side reference in those series to something going on in my life, but in terms of talking about how things have been, that's going to have its own series. I don't know how often I'll be updating it because I've never been much of a vlogger. And, of course, I have the text blog, too, so I could always talk about things there. But it just never really jived very well with me. It's been a hot topic, and but there have been times when I've gone too far in the other direction, and I've claimed to not be a vlogger, but then suddenly, hey, what do you know? My so-called topic-based video series are suddenly looking very, very vloggy lately. Yeah, so both extremes are bad, so I'm hoping that having a dedicated blog series on here as a third series will probably be the nice middle ground with the whole issue of vloggy type stuff and bloggy type stuff. Anyways, before we call it a discussion here, because this is turning into, well, one of the things I wanted to do with this series was make it a cross between the old radio style and the podcast, so maybe lengths between 15 minutes and a half hour isn't that big of a deal, especially when this thing is made for people to listen to in the background and stuff like that, or maybe even use a YouTube to MP3 converter to listen to this on like an MP3 player or something. I really don't have a problem with it, but anyways, I made a passing reference to a formerly huge YouTuber earlier, and I think it would be worth mentioning this person before calling it a discussion here, since we're talking about changes to YouTube over the years and the status of video bloggers and all that fun stuff. How could I possibly have a discussion about this kind of stuff without mentioning Renetto? Now, this guy was one of those hotshot YouTubers back when I was first getting involved. I'm looking over his videos right now. It looks like he's kind of come and gone. He's probably had the same kind of, I think he's had the same kind of experience here that I have, where, you know, video blogging just gets long in the tooth and he takes big long breaks and stuff like that, which is why I don't want to have a regular vlog series on here. But, okay, so I'm looking at his, wait a minute, I can get all his videos to fit. The guy's been around for years, and I can get all of his videos to fit on one screen with just a couple of clicks. No, just kidding. So, yeah, what, 7 years ago? Yeah, this is the Renetto stuff that I remember from the heyday of YouTube vloggers. 76544. Okay, well, maybe he didn't take as long a breaks as I thought that he did, but maybe it's because I can't see the actual upload dates. 3-2. Okay, he's been semi-regular on here, and he's been trying all different kinds of stuff. But here's the thing. The guy's been on the warpath about the current state of YouTube lately with the crap that's been going on, but every time I watch his videos, the times that I've tried watching his videos, it's been as time warp as it gets. Now, he's tried a few different things from time to time, but most of the more recent stuff, if I watch it, it's like, if you wanted to see YouTube in 2006, watch a Renetto video, because this guy absolutely refuses to budge. I mean, when I first got involved here, you had people turning on the camera and talking, and like, they would actually just leave the camera running if stuff happened. So, and then eventually, of course, we had the jump cut vlogs evolve from that, where people started jump cutting all over the place and things like that. But this guy, I don't even see him doing that. I see, so he'll be like walking around with his camera a couple inches from his face. He'll be walking around talking to his camera in his backyard. And like, oh, the dog's running around like a maniac. Sorry, folks, I just gotta go get this done. And why not just jump cut that? Why not just stop the camera, take care of your dog, and then come back and talk about what your video supposedly is about? I mean, I am just ready to scream trying to watch this guy's vlogs, because even vloggers don't do this stuff anymore. And the guy's flipping out, like, you know, why am I not more popular on YouTube? You know, of course, the guy does have 37,500 subscribers, or still has, I should say, because, but here's the thing. this guy, as far as I say that subscribers are completely useless, and this guy is a great example of that because he blows me away in subscribers. But if I look at the views that his videos are getting, and I compare it to the views that mine are getting, I actually have more of my, even with my horrendous excuses for view numbers, I have more of my, a higher percentage of my audience regularly engaged than he does. And he's been the big YouTube celebrity. I've just been the guy doing stuff just for fun. No wonder this guy's flipping his lid. Not to mention, even among people who know this guy, he's kind of been playing fast and loose with the image that he's built up for himself. He's actually growing beards and stuff now, and basically, anybody who remembers classic Renetto, the vlogger who was big on YouTube and stuff like that, it was actually, I used to listen to some Christian rock bands back in those days, and one of them was Delirious, and they had these guys in their bands who looked kind of like Renetto. Guy would just shave completely, go completely bald, down, and like have a shiny head and goofy glasses or something like that. And of course the whole Renetto glasses, that's kind of a hallmark of the guy. But now he's doing this stuff with beards and goatees and stuff and things like that. And he looks more like Ben Bernanke than Renetto. So I don't know, maybe you should, but hit the microphone again. I need a better setup for these segments. Now this guy, yeah, he does look like Ben Bernanke trying to video blog when he really lets his beard get scruffy, but I don't want to poke fun at the guy's appearance. I mean, age happens. We all get old, blah, 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 and stuff like that. But you know, the guy built up an image for himself in his heyday as the guy who, he was just, you know, a clean-shaven guy with goofy glasses. Matter of fact, I once got flamed on another vlogger's site because he had very similar frames on his glasses. So I left a comment and I was like, Renetto called, he'd like his glasses back. And the guy's like, oh, yeah, who cares? Like, hands the copyrighted glasses. The fact remains, the guy has built up a persona and an image associated with it. Now, it may be that he only wants the glasses to be what makes Renetto, but I don't know. I'm too used to the clean-shaven Renetto. But I think the big thing, I think this guy's frustrated as all heck because at the very same time that he's doing his time warp videos where he just turns on the camera and talks like every single vlogger used to do back in the day, even before jump cut vlogging started up, he's tried his hand at like Apple commercial style studio type video type things where he just basically, he built like some kind of like cylindrical white studio type thing. It makes his videos look like Apple commercials. And if he's going for like, you know, plain old fashioned vlogging, this isn't the way to do it. So a couple of months ago, apparently, I'm looking at these videos here where every single one of the thumbnails is him against a plain white background or a gradient type background because the uneven lighting and is in his cylindrical chat room or whatever you want to call it. But what this guy strikes me as is somebody who's just grasping at straws because, I don't know, but then he goes around and says he doesn't want to grow his channel. He wants to just have a core community of people who are always commenting on his videos, and he wants to talk with all the commenting and stuff like that. But then he's like, oh, I wish I could make money off of this. You can't have both, pal. This is the lesson that YouTube has known for years, and a big reason why there's so many fake vloggers on here. And I don't mean fake as in Lonely Girl 15 or actors or anything. I'm talking like people who come across as vloggers, but really they're cherry picking their content in order to make money off of it. They're monetizing things like they're trying to monetize their videos, and their content, the content they select for what they decide to spend their time making is directly affected by the bottom line. So yeah, fake vloggers, not just people talking about their lives anymore, people trying to make money by essentially creating the homebrew version of a soap opera. So, yeah. Well, I hope the guy's I hope the guy can work out his issues right now, but, you know, maybe I'll subscribe to the guy. Yeah, I mean, he's been on the warpath about the fakeness that pervades YouTube these days. I think that would be enough to subscribe, but I don't know. I'm going to keep it, see if this guy doesn't vanish again, because last time I looked at his videos on a semi-regular basis, it was right before he deleted a bunch of them and then stopped doing YouTube for a couple of months. So, I don't know. Anyways, I imagine some of his frustration might also be because there are big-time YouTubers these days with secondary channels that have more activity than his channel does. Like, for example, I recently resubscribed for the first time in years. I actually resubscribed to Venetian Princess. I left the scene with the stuff she was up to and commenting on the multimedia stuff, is she's a big multimedia geek too, and she's become more of a film geek and a YouTube superstar and stuff like that, and she kind of made the transition from really creative vlogger to basically content creator, and basically now lives off of the revenue generated from her parody videos. She's heavily influenced by Weird Al, and I'm glad she's a Weird Al fan, because Weird Al kicks ass, but and still kicking ass after all these years. Crazy what the guy's doing in his mid-50s now. You know, and he was actually, oh, man, his last album, actually, the Jim Morrison parody about Craigslist, man, that video he did. You're not going to see very many guys at Weird Al's age doing what this guy is doing at that age. But anyways, I left the whole scene with Venetian Princess because I was more of a fan of her really creative vlogs back during the vlog days, where she'd green screen herself all over the place and stuff like that. Her celebrity parodies, not so much. I actually find some of them to be a little on the cheesy side, but she recently decided to try getting into more vloggy type stuff again with her Sky Diamond secondary channel. And so I've subscribed to that. I might eventually subscribe to her main channel again, because she only does like parody videos once every few months or so. So it's not like she's trying to flood the YouTube bandwidth tubes, whatever you want to call them, with all kinds of videos and things like that. But yeah, I might just for the heck of it. I mean, yeah, she's not doing the stuff that she used to, but at least she's trying to be real about it now, instead of some fake, like, I believe it's Sexy Phil now. He's got the couch in the background that he never sits on. And yeah, I remember in my last rant about the fakeness of YouTube, that was one of the things that the article blasting what video blogging has become that I referenced, was mentioning. But so yeah, she wants to actually be real with her audience now. She's actually doing some regular vlogging again, albeit on a second channel similar to some of the other big YouTubers. But just for the heck of it, I've subscribed to it. And even if I'm not subscribed to her main channel, at least yet, I might go back at some point. But for now, at least the vlog thing. But her channel, a secondary channel that she only sporadically updates, and with the stuff she puts on with the timestamps on some of the videos now, it's blatant. She comes and goes from this channel whenever she wants to talk about stuff. So you'll go from 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, boom, 1 year. So that's quite a jump. 1 year, 2 years, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, this has been a secondary channel for her for quite some time. But she recently has expressed interest in just being real with her audience, so that's good. At least she doesn't have to be entirely this larger-than-life internet celebrity that she's become these days, and can actually resemble a human being in front of a camera from time to time instead of an actress. But anyways, despite the sporadic activity and the blatant secondary side project status of the Sky Diamonds channel, she has a larger audience and more audience engagement than Renetto, a regular vlogger, who his primary channel, basically the one he's had since he started on YouTube. He's never, I don't think he's done like secondary channels or anything along those lines. But yeah, so she's doing better than him, both in terms, and even if you take the difference in subscribers out of the picture, in terms of percentage of the audience that's regularly engaged, she has more regularly engaged fans than he does. No wonder the guy's flipping his lid. So she can get more of a response on something she just does on the side from time to time than this guy does with his main thing. I can see why he's going nuts. Then again, there's a lot of people flipping their lids about the current state of this site. And I understand why they're flipping their lids. I mean, things have changed, and not all for the better. But in terms of where have all the Vlogboys gone, now that video blogging is just one of the various types of video types that you'll see on this site these days, the people who regularly would watch a vlog are just one of the various types of people that are generating traffic for this site. So if the guy wants to be a true blue vlogger in classic YouTube style, where he just turns on the camera and starts talking and doesn't even do the jump cut thing where he's constantly jump cutting when stuff comes up in his videos, and he actually apologizes whenever he actually does have to do a jump cut. If this guy is just going to do plain old-fashioned classic vlogging, he's going to only get those types of people interested in watching and watching on a regular basis, or getting involved on a regular basis. And of course, he's going to be nowhere near following all those SOPs that people are preaching about how people should follow, do this, that, the other, and stuff along those lines. But yeah, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Sometimes you do have to make tough choices. And in the case of YouTube's changes and the changes to how video blogging is viewed these days, some of those changes do get quite intense in terms of which side of the line that's been clearly drawn that you want to be found on when others come looking for you in regards to where you stand on that issue. Anyways, this should make up for my kind of break from the microphone for a bit. Time to get back to some more camera type stuff and begin my incredibly busy day. Thanks for listening, everybody. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.